Irish Potato Famine, 1845 to 52. Famine that occurred in Ireland when the potato crop failed in successive years. The Irish Potato Famine, also known as the Great Hunger, began in 1845 when a mold known as Phytophthora infestans caused a destructive plant disease that spread rapidly throughout Ireland. The infestation ruined up to one-half of the potato crop that year and about three-quarters of the crop over the next 7 years. Because the tenant farmers of Ireland, then ruled as a colony of Great Britain, relied heavily on the potato as a source of food, the infestation had a catastrophic impact on Ireland and its population. Before it ended in 1852, the potato famine resulted in the death of roughly 1 million Irish from starvation and related causes, with at least another million forced to leave their homeland as refugees. Ireland in the 1800s. With the ratification of the Act for the Union of Great Britain and Ireland in 1801, Ireland was effectively governed as a colony of Great Britain until the Irish War of Independence ended in 1921. Together, the combined nations were known as the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. As such, the British government appointed Ireland's executive heads of state, known respectively as the Lord Lieutenant and the Chief Secretary of Ireland, although residents of the Emerald Isle could elect representation to the British Parliament in London. In all, Ireland sent 105 representatives to the House of Commons, the lower house of Parliament, and 28 peers, titled landowners, to the House of Lords or the upper house. Still, it's important to note that the bulk of these elected representatives were landowners of British origin and / or their sons. In addition, any Irish who practiced Catholicism, the majority of Ireland's native population, were initially prohibited from owning or leasing land, voting, or holding elected office under the so-called penal laws. Although the penal laws were largely repealed by 1829, their impact on Ireland's society and governance was still being felt at the time of the potato famine's onset. English and Anglo-Irish families owned most of the land, and most Irish Catholics were relegated to work as tenant farmers, forced to pay rent to the landowners. Ironically, less than 100 years before the famine's onset, the potato was introduced to Ireland by the landed gentry. However, despite the fact only one variety of that was grown in the country, the so-called Irish lumper, it soon became a staple food of the poor, particularly during cold winter months. Great Hunger begins when the crops began to fail in 1845. As a result of peat infestans infection, Irish leaders in Dublin petitioned Queen Victoria and Parliament to act, and initially they did, repealing the so-called corn laws and their tariffs on grain, which made food such as corn and bread prohibitively expensive. Still, these changes failed to offset the growing problem of potato blight, with many tenant farmers unable to produce sufficient food for their consumption, and the cost of other supplies rising. Thousands died from starvation and hundreds of thousands more from disease caused by malnutrition. Complicating matters further, historians have since concluded that Ireland continued to export large quantities of food, primarily to Great Britain, during the blight. In cases such as livestock and butter, research suggests that exports from Ireland may have increased during the potato famine. In 1847 alone, records indicate that commodities such as peas, beans, rabbits, fish, and honey continued to be exported from Ireland, even as the Great Hunger ravaged the countryside. The potato crops didn't fully recover until 1852. By then, the damage was done. Although estimates vary, it is believed as many as 1 million Irish men, women, and children perished during the famine, and another 1 to 2 million emigrated from the island to escape poverty and starvation, with many landing in various cities throughout North America and Great Britain. Legacy of the potato famine. With a population significantly reduced by 2 to 3 million and increased food imports after 1850, the Irish potato famine eventually ended around 1852. But for those who remained behind in a decimated Ireland, a renewed appreciation was ignited for Irish independence from British rule. The exact role of the British government in the potato famine and its aftermath, whether it ignored the plight of Ireland's poor out of malice or if their collective inaction and inadequate response could be attributed to incompetence, is still being debated. However, the significance of the potato famine in the Irish language and Gorta Mór, or the Great Hunger, in Irish history and its contribution to the Irish diaspora of the 19th and 20th centuries is beyond doubt. Tony Blair, during his time as British Prime Minister, issued a statement in 1997 offering a formal apology to Ireland for the UK government's handling of the crisis at the time. A Great Hunger Museum has been established at Quinnipiac University in Hamden, Connecticut, as a resource for those seeking information on the potato famine and its impact, as well as for researchers hoping to explore the event and its aftermath. And that's all for today. If you enjoyed it, do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon.